when I was young, I had asthma for a period of roughly 10 years. I don't remember the exact dates, but let's say from the age of 8 till 18, something like that. So a good 10 years during which I had, well, I haven't kept track to be honest, but I would say at least a couple hundred of asthma attacks, which is enough to kind of make me an expert on the subject, if you will. And the thing is, I grew up in the country, and that means that I was pretty much allergic to everything from humidity, moisture, any kind of pollen or dust or cats or dogs or pretty much any kind of irritant you can imagine. I was allergic to. So during that period of roughly 10 years or so, I had a lot of asthma attacks. Some of them were more intense, some of them were bearable, and I did have, that Ventolin pump that every asthmatic knows oh so well. And I even have that special like chamber that you plug the pump into and that disperses it. That way when you breathe it in, it makes it easier to breathe in and have it, disperse through your body and also make sure you don't waste it because when you just have the pump, sometimes you like squirt and then you inhale and you don't necessarily time it right and you kind of lose some. So anyway, I had both the pump and the dispersion chamber. And that is kind of the beauty of it. Because at some point near the end, I realized something after a while. And that was the realization that, oh crap, at some point, for some reason, when I plugged the pump into the chamber, I forgot to remove the cap. So literally every single time for the last, I don't know how many times, at least a dozen times, dozen asthma attacks, I would take the Ventolin or think I was taking it without actually taking it. Because at the time I had like a pump that I carried around with me, and then I had another pump with the chamber like plugged into it that I just keep in my room. That way, whenever I was home, whenever I needed it, it was there. And most of the times, it was at night that the breathing issues got worse because it's when you lie down generally that it's more difficult to breathe. So that's usually when I had to use it. So I always left it plugged in, which meant that for at least a couple dozen, or I don't know, like at least the last few dozen, something like that, times that I had an asthma attack and that I thought I was taking Ventolin, I actually wasn't because I would spray it in, but the cap would block it so it wouldn't enter the antechamber or the chamber, and then I'd inhale thinking that I was taking it without actually taking it. Now you might be thinking like, wait, but there is like a specific taste, if you will, a certain flavor to that, to Ventolin when you inhale it. Like, how could you not notice? Well, the thing is, because there's very little difference between taste and smell. So as a result of that, whenever I'd squirt it into, well, what I thought was into the chamber, it would squirt out the other end and I'd be able to smell it, and that would trick my brain into thinking I was actually inhaling it. So for, let's say a dozen times, just for easy math for storytelling's sake, I thought I was taking it and I wasn't, yet it was still working. Every single time of those dozen or so times that I thought I was taking it and I wasn't, it worked. The breathing got better, my lungs opened up, I didn't have any trouble breathing anymore, I was able to sleep normally. So literally just thinking that I was taking it without actually taking it was having the same effect on my body than actually taking it. I'm assuming most of you are familiar with this, the placebo effect, the thought of, you think you do something and you're not actually doing it, but because you think you are, it works. They keep using that in clinical studies and everything, and it's been proven in so many different ways. But there's a difference between understanding it and experiencing it. And even though I didn't realize at the moment I was experiencing it, when I did one day finally realize, crap, the cap's been on it this whole time for God knows how many times. I thought I was taking it, I wasn't, and it still worked. And that's the moment I realized, okay, I don't need this. My body, my mind, the belief that I'll be okay is enough to help me. So from that moment on, I made a decision. I'm never taking Ventolin again. I took the pump, I took everything, threw it out, and since then, I have never, ever, ever taken Ventolin in my entire life. And my asthma completely went away. Now, that's not to say that process was easy. Once I knew I was no longer taking it, of course, it stopped working because my brain's like, oh, I know I'm not taking it. And because of that, it completely stopped working. And I don't remember exactly how long it took because, as I say, like it was what, like 16 years ago, something like that. So I don't remember all the details, but I do remember that it took a while for my body to get used to it and to realize, like, crap, he's not taking Ventolin. He will never take Ventolin again. Might as well stop giving him asthma attacks because he's not doing anything about it. So there was a period of months, if not maybe a year, I don't remember exactly, but I do remember having multiple more asthma attacks. And because I threw everything away, taking Ventolin was not an option. So I literally spent entire nights just having trouble breathing, sitting in my chair. And I don't know if you've ever had that, but if you had asthma or breathing issues in the past, if it gets intense enough for a long enough period, it starts hurting your back. And I remember two very distinct moments, two very distinct and separate moments where it got so intense that I literally had the thought, death right now would be a relief. Not to say I considered suicide. I've never done that. I don't think I could ever be in a situation where I would consider that. But the thought did occur to me. Death in this moment would be a relief. And that kind of like hit me. And to this day, like I still remember that sensation of just sitting there in pain, my back hurting, having a hard time breathing, middle of the night, everyone else is asleep. I'm the only one who's awake and having that thought of death would be a relief right now. It's something that kind of hits you, especially when you're a teenager. Like it hit me very hard and made me think about things. And, eventually, because I was so stubborn and I knew the belief that I'll be okay means that I don't need the Ventolin, I'll never take it again. Eventually, my body got used to it. And as a result of that, the asthma completely went away. I eventually stopped having asthma attacks, haven't had any since then. It's just recently, with all the radiotherapy that I received, the breathing issues that I've experienced for the last month and a half at this point, it just reminded me of back when I had asthma and just like sitting in bed, propped up on a bunch of pillows all night, just having trouble breathing, not being able to sleep, being exhausted. Like that state, it just reminded me of when I was young. And I'm like, I never really took the time to sit down and share this story. And the reason why I'm doing that, aside from the fact that I was reminded of that recently, is because when I did that when I was young, when I was a teenager, and it worked, when it worked, I realized the true power, not just of the placebo effect, but the true power of the mind, the true power of belief. And that's why now, 16 or so years later, when my life literally hangs in the balance, I'm choosing to believe, even though the odds are stacked against me, even though logically speaking it does not make sense for me to believe this, I choose to believe that I will find a cure, that I will cure myself because I know the power of belief. And that all started back when I was 18 or so, and I decided to stop having asthma. And as a result of that, my body obeyed that belief. And as a result of that, I stopped having it. And that's what really started the process. That's what made me realize how incredibly powerful the human mind can be. And now that my life literally hangs in the balance, I continue to have that belief. And I don't know exactly how it's all going to work. I don't know exactly how long it's going to take. But there is that undying belief deep within me that I will be okay, that I will survive, that everything will be fine. And I completely understand not everyone has the same perspective as me. Not everyone went through what I went through. But I feel like this story that I just shared, how I overcame my asthma, how I beat my asthma, that was really the start of this entire journey. And it's exactly what I needed to experience so that now, when my life literally hangs in the balance, I have the knowledge and the understanding and the willpower to be able to do that. And even though it doesn't make logical sense, I know that as a result of that happening all those years ago, I will be okay. So I just wanted to share that story. Hopefully, you enjoyed that. And if you have any kind of story regarding placebo effects or the power of the mind or anything like that, I would love to hear it. Just drop it in the comments below. And I'll check back in probably tomorrow. Hopefully, everything will be good by then. And I missed it and I was holding in a cough until I stopped recording, so I guess I screwed both those things up.